Perhaps the biggest passion that most men struggle with in today's time is the passion of lust. What have you seen to be the most effective in overcoming this particular passion? Is it different from overcoming, let's say, the passion of anger or wrath, or does lust stand out on its own as something more difficult for people to overcome?
The passion of lust, for sure, would be one of the biggest passions that men have, especially when it comes to the passion of lust with viewing explicit content and pairing that up with other things that people do when they have these all together with self-abuse. So, statistically speaking, the professionals say that it's about 63% of men everywhere that have a struggle with lust and with adult content and with self-abuse. 63% of men anywhere. That's at any parish, at any job, at any organization. 63% of the men there have a problem with that. And roughly between 23 and 25% of women are now having that same problem too. Like men, comparable to the men. It's like they have been rewired, so to speak, to respond to illicit, explicit images in the way that the male mind does. And so now they have this program to analyze and look at people a certain way, almost like this robotic instinct that takes over, that's constantly scanning and evaluating and sexualizing, objectifying people. So your question is, what is a practical response to that?
Yeah. What has been the most effective that you've seen personally, as a priest?
Yeah. The most effective way that a person can do, whether they're a man or a woman, is to, first of all, we're going back to establish that kind of a relationship of accountability with their spiritual father. If they need to also maybe have accountability, careful with this, but have accountability with someone they trust or a group that they trust. The trust part and confidentiality has to be of essence there, right? And to be discreet and practice some, if they're adults, they should speak to other adults. Don't talk to any minors about these things. Even if the minor confides in you that they have this struggle too, that's not appropriate. Help them any way you can. If you're struggling with this yourself, you should probably just direct them to somebody else. But an adult should reach out to their spiritual father and maybe another adult. Some parishes at times have groups that they use to help people, like support groups. There was a time where we had a group like that here in our parish, and I believe it might even still be going on, where it's a group that's confidential. No one knows about it. No one talks about it. It's like Fight Club. All right, no one knows about it. No one talks about it, but it exists and it's there for people that need it. It has the blessing of a priest, like all ministries do. And it's a group that meets to have accountability and share struggles. So that's one thing. The next thing the person can do is to practice the opposite virtue, which is purity. Strive to fight and to not give in to these things. It's a lot easier said than done. But something that really helps in that struggle is to fast, because the Holy Fathers tell us, especially in that other great spiritual treatise and manual, the Ladder of Divine Ascent, St. John Climacus tells us that the passion of fornication, aka the passion of lust, and the passion of gluttony are closely linked together. And usually men, and now women more so, will find that when they overindulge and they enter into gluttony, they live like a glut, then it facilitates the temptation to give into this other passion. So one thing that seems to help tremendously is to practice fasting. I believe the way it's described by St. John in the Ladder of Divine Ascent is that the man who is trying to put out the passion of fornication but doesn't fast is like the man who is pouring oil or fuel on a fire and expects it to go out. So if you're just living a life of pleasure and luxury and drinking whatever you want and eating whatever you want and expect that through some other means you're going to stop this struggle with lust, that might not happen. It might not happen. you have to humble your body and subdue it. Remind it who's in charge, that you want the spirit to be in charge. The soul is in charge, not it. You have to remind it, I'm in charge. This is why we Orthodox, we try to fast on Wednesdays and Fridays especially. We say no to legitimate pleasures that are not sinful. So there's nothing wrong with cheese. There's nothing wrong with meat. But we practice saying no so that when the illicit pleasures come, we know how to say no. We can say no to those as well. We have an ability to say no. Just like when a child is learning how to say no. I remember, sorry for this digression, but I remember as a young parent, when I had my firstborn, I have 5 children, my firstborn, many years ago when she was around 2.5, 3, I remember she entered into that phase where she learned she had a will and she could say, no, do this, no. And I had a friend come over, a parishioner from here come over, and he was picking up something from my home, a piece of furniture that he was getting. And I remember I asked my daughter, don't do this, you have to do that, go do that. And she's just flat out in front of the person said, no, this little 3-year-old. And I was so embarrassed. And I looked at the man and I said, can you believe that? And I'll never forget, the man said, no, that's good, Father. That's really good. I said, what do you mean that's good? And he said, she's entering into the phase where she's learning that she can have a sense of autonomy and that she can say no, that no is an option. And it's important for her to say no. He said, if she does it too much, Father, down the road, then you'll have to correct her. But he said, it's important for her to understand that no is an option so that in the future, when she's 15, when she's 20, if someone's forcing her or doing something to her, or she needs to stand up for herself, she knows that I can say no. I don't have to be afraid. I can say no. In a similar way, if we can apply that to the fasting. So a man or a woman who's struggling with lust, if you fast, you're learning that you can say no. You can say no to your body, even if your body's hungry. If you fast from those treats or that sugar or that extra plate, you're teaching yourself that I can say no. So when the urge comes, you can have that willpower, so to speak, with the grace of God to say no. And then you acknowledge it. You simply acknowledge it. Yes, I think that person's attractive, but I don't need to look at them anymore. The answer is no. This is an internal dialogue, and you remind yourself, by saying no to that, I say yes to Christ. I say yes to Christ. One practical other thing for someone struggling with this particular passion is something that I heard once from a psychologist. Here at the parish, we have various psychologists and psychiatrists that come here. And one psychologist shared once that something they recommend to people is something called urge surfing. Urge surfing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But the reality is, and this is something that I always encourage people to remember, the urge is going to come back. The urge is going to come back. And eventually, God willing, with time it dissipates and it loses its strength, but it's going to come back. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So just like when you're at the beach and you're playing in the water, you've been to the beach, presumably, right? You're in the Midwest, right? So maybe
we come out here when we go to the beach. Yeah.
So you've been to the beach where there's waves, So if you're at the beach and there's waves, you know that they're coming, and you're maybe out there in the water and you're talking to your friend, and you know it's coming. You can hear it, you see it, you're aware of it, and then you come up, with your friend, the plan. Hey, are we going under? What are we going to do? Are we going to go on top? What are we going to do? Are we going to plunge underneath it? What? And when it comes, you have a plan and you write it out, and then it goes and it fades, and then you're playing again, you're talking, you're out there swimming, and you know it's going to come back and subside, and you know that it's not over. Eventually, another one is going to come. But if you don't pay any attention and you're completely distracted, by the time you look, it's going to hit you, it's going to pummel you on the floor. It could hurt you if it's shallow. It could really mess you up. Get seriously hurt. You could get scratches on your face in the sand. So it's a matter of being aware. Oh, here's another wave. I'm tempted. So you make a plan. Okay, what's the plan? What's the response? Okay, I'm not going to use this. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go pray. I'm going to go stand before my icons, and I'm not going to move till this thing fades. And it does fade. The wave comes, it crashes, it goes out, and then it recedes and it goes. People usually find, just like they do with other addictions, smoking, things like that, if they wait it out for about 15 minutes, the power of it fades. And a lot of it is just accepting that you have the temptation. Yes, I'm being tempted to look at things I shouldn't look at. Okay. I can't do that. That's not an option for me. And you just wait it out, and then you'll feel like, oh wow, it faded. That doesn't mean it's over. Never fool yourself. And that's one of the things that the unseen warfare really emphasizes. Never fool yourself and convince yourself that you've completely gone victorious over your enemy. Sometimes, especially in another spiritual work, the philokalia, sometimes the demons, these temptations will leave us on purpose. They will leave us for a while to make us convinced. If you've gone victory for a month, I haven't looked at anything illicitly. I don't look at people. I'm done. I'm healed. I'm over it. Sometimes the demons could be leaving us and wait till we're in a moment of weakness, and then they ambush us, the Holy Fathers tell us. So these are some practical things to think about. And sometimes there needs to be more than just pastoral counseling. Pastoral counseling is number one. You need to understand that healing is going to come from Christ. He is the physician of soul and body. And you need to be right with God and at peace with God. But sometimes the person also needs to explore some psychological counseling, some therapy, to talk about these things. 84% of that 63% of the population, 84% of men that struggle, and women, and that struggle with this, are usually victims of some kind of abuse. Whether it be emotional, psychological, verbal, sexual, physical, whatever it is. And they have found that lusting is a way for them to cope with feelings. Lusting becomes a way to anesthetize themselves in life. So they need to explore that. And unfortunately, the priest may not have the availability to do that all the time. I'm sure every priest would love to be able to help everyone that comes with them. They can help them spiritually and give them a prayer rule and pray for them and administer the sacraments to them and keep them lifted up in prayer and guide them and hear their confessions and administer those things. But that person would need to go with the blessing of their priest to a proper psychologist who will respect the framework within which that Orthodox Christian wants to work in. That's very important. Don't go, if a person out there listening needs to go to a counselor, interview the counselor, find out, what do they think about this? What do they think about marriage? What do they think about life? What do they think about love? What do they think about God? If you can't find an Orthodox Christian therapist, which is not always easy, go to at least a Christian therapist. Go to another kind of Christian. Go to a Catholic therapist. Go to, reach out to your nearest Caritas or, agency nearby if they have anything like that. If you can't find anything like that, but you find a really respectable secular atheist, then you need to explicitly tell them, I am an Orthodox Christian, and the framework that I want to work in, everything I want to do has to stay within this paradigm. I need you to respect this, and if you can honor that and help me stay in this, then I'll come to you. If you can't, then I'll have to go somewhere else. And someone may, if they're kind enough, they will respect you, and they'll say, okay, fine, well, and they'll remind you, hey, this goes against what you believe in. What are you talking about? You can't do this, and they'll help you in that regard if they're going to be professional about it. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful. I hope that gives you some practical things to think about.